Welcome to Literacy Mindset, where education leaders from across the country share strategies for improving K-12 instruction today and preparing for the challenges of tomorrow. The stakes are high. Students are facing new academic demands, and educators are navigating an ever-changing educational landscape. Each episode, we explore the most effective literacy initiatives, innovative tools, and strategies that are reshaping education. Whether you're an educator looking to improve student outcomes or passionate about driving meaningful change in schools, the Literacy Mindset brings you the insights and strategies you need to stay ahead. This is where education leadership meets real-world impact.
All right. Well, I'm really excited for this episode of Literacy Mindset. I have today Dr. Bobby Hart, Superintendent of Searcy School District in Arkansas. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, no, I think it's exciting to be able to talk about it. I told Dr. Hart earlier that I've spent some of my career, and my youngest son was born in Arkansas, so some meaningful feelings will likely come out today as we talk a little bit about public education and literacy in Arkansas. But would you mind just starting us off, kind of telling us a little bit about Searcy and what you got going on there?
Sure. Searcy is a school system located in White County, which is in central Arkansas, kind of what some refer to as north central Arkansas, just about 45 minutes northeast of Little Rock, if you're familiar with the state. Yep. We have about 4,000 students in our school district, 50% of which are on free and reduced lunch. Our racial makeup is about 80% Caucasian and 10% African American, and then another 10% Hispanic population. We've been very fortunate in my 4 years here. We've been very fortunate that we've seen some growth in our school system, not astronomical, but we've seen steady, consistent enrollment, which is as you know, many of you listeners probably know and understand that that's kind of the backbone of public schools, is making sure that there are kids there to teach.
Show up.
Yeah. Our city has done a really good job of partnering with us, and we feel like we're a good option and a good choice for folks here in north central Arkansas. So.
And how long have you been there again?
I've been here. This is the middle of my 4th year. I was previously the superintendent in Hope, Arkansas, down in southwest Arkansas. Spent 9 years there, loved it there. Had a lot of good people and good folks that we worked with and did some great things with them. And we're trying to do some of those same great things here in Searcy.
All right. Well, thank you. That's excellent. I love hearing you talk about, the key metric is getting kids to show up because that's where learning can happen, is when we have students there. Let's talk a little bit about literacy. Obviously, we love talking about literacy on this podcast. So kind of walk us through what your literacy initiatives look like there, how you think about them, where it happens maybe at the district level, and what do you push out to the schools, and we'll kind of walk through that.
We are just, like I shared with you earlier before we started recording, about 10 years ago, the state of Arkansas tried to get everyone, or had an initiative to make sure everyone in education was familiar with and could work in the science of reading. Right. And so that's been a requirement for a little over 10 years, and I hope no one from the department's listening. It may be more than that for all I know. Or maybe less. It just seemed like it was 10 years. But as of now, everyone who comes through the education pipeline in higher ed, and most all of our teachers that are currently on staff have been trained in the science of reading. And so that's the first area that I think is it's been a benefit, because it was made to, districts were made to do that work. Right. Because the state decided to do it. Okay. It's been beneficial because it puts us all on the same page. It puts us all doing the same things, and it gives us some method to our madness, if you will. Right. A second requirement that we've all looked at and that we've really tried to be conscious of is HQIM, high quality instructional material.
Indeed.
for decades, many school districts didn't have a curriculum as such. It's hard to believe. And this is one of them. It didn't have a formal curriculum. Teachers were just simply pulling things together to put to teach the standards. And so, just as I arrived, the district had adopted Wit and Wisdom as their literacy curriculum. And for K-6, and I believe for 7-8, we've adopted My Perspectives. And so having that quality material early on, everybody was like, oh, this is too difficult. Our kids don't get it. Our kids don't come in with the background knowledge. Well, we're at a point in the world where, hey, a lot of kids aren't coming in with the background knowledge. It's up to us to teach the background knowledge. That's part of learning how to read now is help. We got to pour in some background knowledge to them. And so we've seen this last year was the first group of third graders that had come through the program.
Through all of the instruction. Okay.
And I think every teacher in the third grade will tell you that they're able to have deeper and more rich conversations, and they're able to read not only at higher levels, but they're able to read, more challenging text because their vocabulary has grown as a result of the work that they've done in the past. It's no secret, 50% of our students come from free and reduced lunch backgrounds. And so kids with fewer resources come to school with about 1 million word deficit in their vocabulary.
Sure.
And so we're trying to raise those things up and trying to balance and even that up a little bit. And I think we've been pretty successful. We have blemishes just like any other school district that we don't, we're not as successful as we would like, but I think for the most part, we're doing really well. The curriculum itself is, going back to your question, the curriculum and the instruction materials that's that non-negotiable from the district.
Okay.
We are going to use those materials.
Right.
And that took some, I don't want to say collusion, but that took some persuading and lots of listening on our part at the district level and lots of conversations. But I think we've gotten there now. We're being consistent in our usage of the curriculum, even at the secondary level. And I have a secondary background, so I can talk about them. Secondary teachers are sometimes the most difficult to change. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but I've been teaching.
Why do you think that is?
For years they just went in their classroom, closed their door, and did what they did, and I think high school teachers have had a hard time accepting the fact that, hey, we're all teachers of literacy. We're all teachers of reading. And for decades, I think the idea at the secondary level is, hey, but if they can't read by the time they get here, what am I supposed to do with them? Well,
okay.
You got to teach them where they are and help them progress, help them grow. And I think we've overcome some of that. We work extremely hard in collaborative working groups.
Okay.
That PLC work is another non-negotiable that we have. It's part of our core beliefs is we believe if we work collaboratively to solve problems and we work collaboratively to guide instruction, then our kids are better served for it. And so that's been, to me, I think some of the biggest work that we've done over the last 4 years is that collaborative piece, helping teachers, because for lack of, we've never really, teachers have always just, done their own thing and it's been serviceable, but it's been serviceable to those kids who are going to get it anyway. Yeah. So if we're going to help those kids who aren't getting it, we got to be very intentional in our work, and the more intentional we are in our conversations during our collaborative time is very, very important to us. We're also looking at we've adopted Phonics First. It's been in the district for a number of years. We're currently going through a change process there to try to determine what is our next
Okay.
phonics program.
Okay.
We feel like that, no slam on phonics first, but we felt like there were some of our state standards that it wasn't quite touching the way we would like for it to
Okay.
touch. And so we've got a committee that's met probably 3 times now that they're going through and trying to evaluate various phonics curriculum. So we take literacy instruction and literacy itself serious. We, everything stems from there, and so we start trying to make that an emphasis.
That's excellent. Let's drill down for a second on, okay, so structurally, you get sort of a high quality instructional materials, core curriculum in place. You kind of work on that. Let's just say though, today, you're at your third graders and that. What do you do structurally in the upper grades when you do encounter students that maybe aren't reading at a grading level, at a grade level? How do you address intervention? What does that look like in the building? It doesn't have to be, names of products necessarily that you're using, but like, what does it look like when it comes
Yep.
to like, I'm not reading at grade level in the eighth grade?
We try to make your learning as personalized as we can.
Okay.
We're going to take each of we have 3 K3 buildings. We have one that, and then all those come together for a 4-6 building, and then a 7-8, then a 9-12 high school. So
Okay.
let's just say in our grades 4 through 6, if that happens, we have various interventionists throughout that building
Okay.
that are going, and we schedule time. We call it cub time, I think, at the middle school. And you'll have to forgive me because I think they're actually mowing the lawn on a.
Hey, that's great that a lawn can be mowed in December.
Yeah, you know what? Who'd have thought? Or it's either that or a blower, which is the bane of urban existence, is a blower. But anyway, we'll set aside time. We have intervention time built into the school day,
Okay.
and so we try. It's not always possible, but we try to take kids who have similar deficits,
Okay.
whatever standards their deficits are, and group them together within in a smaller group though.
Yeah.
And then we do interventions throughout the day with various kids.
How do those groups get formed? Do you use some standardized assessing that happens to kind of surface that? Is this
Yeah.
basically left on the teacher to make that decision?
No, it's number one. It's a collective decision by the 4th grade team to say,
Okay.
hey, Bobby
Got it.
is struggling here, and here's why. The data says that his standardized test scores are this, his
Performance in class,
common formative assessments,
Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
his CFAs say this, and my classroom grades are saying this. So we need to put him into an intervention setting. We need to, and here are the things that he needs to work on. And we've got half a dozen interventionists in that building that try to spend 30 minutes a day with every kid who has that.
So they get
those needs.
one-on-one time or group time? Group time with the
Group time.
intervention.
Group
Got it.
time is intervention. That's our kind of our, I hate to say tier 2. It's really a tier 3 intervention because it's done outside the regular classroom.
Okay.
The teacher may do the classroom teacher may do the original tier 2 instruction, where she may have kids in her class, or he may have kids in his class that have similar deficits. They're going to group them together for
Right.
in-class tier 2 intervention. And we try, and it goes back to the idea of, progress monitor. We're monitoring every 2 weeks to see, are they making progress? Are they advancing the way we feel like they should? And before we bump them out into tier 3. So I probably got ahead of myself there, but
No, that makes sense.
we progress monitoring is one of those things that it's kind of like the cartoon. These guys riding on camels, and one looks at the other and says, "No, we're not here yet. We're nomads, for crying out loud. We're never going to be there." And that's kind of the way we feel about progress monitoring. You're never going to be there. You're always going to be monitoring to
Just
see
monitoring where we're going and how.
whether it's they're progressing or regressing or not moving, or they are progressing and doing well. So,
Okay. Okay, so you talked, let's drill in here for a second. You talk about personalized learning. You want to personalize it for the student. How much does technology play a role in that? Or is it so completely extraneous? Do you try and intentionally incorporate it? just walk us through a little bit about when you think personalized learning, do you automatically think technology as a way to facilitate it, or is it if it can be used,
Yeah.
kind of complement?
We have kind of a mixed bag of tricks there.
Okay.
For a long time, people thought that if I put a kid on program X and sit them down, that's the intervention. That
Right.
should be enough. And no, that doesn't work. It may for some, and if it
Sure.
does, hey, that's great. But it still requires some interaction between a student and a teacher. And I've been doing this 31 years, so maybe I'm kind of old fashioned about it. But it still takes a teacher sitting down with a kid and talking with him or her and trying to help
Okay.
guide them. Now, is there a place for that technology? You bet.
Sure.
Alongside that teacher, we use various programs. Lexia is one that comes to mind that we use to help strengthen our reading program or our literacy programs. And there are others that we've used and,
Okay.
and continue to use. But I think we can't be just we can't just lean on technology and think that that's going to save us. We still
Right.
have to put our effort into the instruction, and I don't want us to ever get away from the fact that teachers are essential. And if they weren't essential, then we could all just open up our laptops. I think COVID probably taught us that
That is not
that's
how it
not the
works.
case. That's right. That's
Right.
not always how it works. And so, to answer
Yeah.
your question, yeah, we use various forms of
Okay.
technology and various programs, but we also understand, hey, we've got to have teacher-student interaction.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. Um, when you think about how things are going, where you would like to be, where you're at on this nomad journey of progress monitoring the district and your literacy success. Where are you at on the journey, and how do you feel like you guys still have improvement and where you're going, and what things would you say, like, man, we feel really good about where we're at here and what we've done so far?
Yeah, I think the idea of collaborative work is something I feel really good about. In terms of specific to literacy, I feel good. We're not there yet, but I feel good about the work we're doing in regard to inclusive practices and making sure that we remove some of those barriers for kids who have traditionally been on the margins,
Mm.
and that we allow ourselves to cater to a more diverse group of students. Um,
Would
Now,
you would you be willing to expand on that a little bit? Because obviously equity is a big topic in a lot of places. Can you
sure.
kind of give some tactical things that you've done to help do that?
Well, yeah, we've made a concerted effort that to try to make sure that I can't remember the percentage in our strategic plan. We wanted to move kids from the traditional special education room where they spent all their day
Okay.
to being able to move kids to where they're in a gen ed classroom. And I use that term just because it's
Loosely,
pretty
sure,
well
sure.
known. We want them in there 80% of the time.
Okay.
That's been good for our kids who hold IEPs, and it's been good for students who don't have IEPs. But where the work is teachers, is getting teachers on board and getting teachers comfortable. If I've been teaching sixth grade mathematics for 30
Right.
years, I have my thing that I do, and I'm used to doing it this way. Well, sometimes when you put kids with IEPs in that classroom, it takes some time for me as a teacher to adapt to having that student there. I'm not familiar with I'm not a special ed teacher.
Right.
So we had to be conscious of, we've got to give our teachers some supports. We team teach a lot along with the special education teacher and the gen ed teacher. We try to be flexible with scheduling so that special ed teacher doesn't just have to go into that class every day. that
Right.
he or she can be free to go to however many classes they hold the folder on and work with kids. And it's not just working with those kids who have IEPs.
Okay.
It's good for every kid that may be struggling to learn. And so um, some of our special education teachers have become really good at teaching math because they've been teaching it to gen ed students who may not always get it the first time. There's another intervention, you know. So I'm really proud of that work that we're doing.
Okay.
We're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and we really just implemented the full schedules this year. But that's another push that kind of came from the state, and just like a lot of things that come from the state, you enter them kicking and screaming, and oh my God, we can't do this. And then when you step back and really look at it, you go, hell, it's not that bad. We can, this is not the end of the world, and it's probably going to help folks if we'll just do it right and do it with fidelity. So we try to work to remove barriers for kids through our UDL practices,
Okay.
and I think we're getting that work done well. I think
Good.
we're still
Okay.
starting or still in the middle of it, but I think we're doing that work well.
Let's circle back a little bit to earlier. We sort of talked to when you have a science of reading mandate or suggestion, strong suggestion from a state department or legislature, and you have 7th, 8th, 9th grade teachers. They didn't learn how to teach reading. It wasn't even likely part of their curriculum, other than maybe a class or two on that. What have you guys been able to do to sort of empower or enable those teachers to be able to feel more comfortable about the construct of being a teacher of reading, even though I am
Not a
an
reading
8th
teacher.
grade
Yeah.
teacher that wasn't thinking I was going to be a teacher of reading?
Yeah, I think, well, and our state Department of Ed was very gracious and helped a lot in that regard.
Okay.
And that the mandate said, and I'm going to get it wrong, but we K through 6, I believe, had to have more training in science of reading. 7, 12, not so much. They had to have an introduction and have an understanding of, I think, is the way the legislation was written. So I think building it that way was good. It mandated everybody go through that work. We have those conversations, and especially with our secondary folks that were not comfortable curriculum-wise early.
Okay.
They would say, "Well, I'm pulling this article, and we're teaching this article," and it wasn't. And so we asked the question, "What grade level is it on? Let's just look at this. What grade level is it written on?" And a lot of times we would find that it would be 2 and 3, 4 grade levels below what they were teaching. And shocked and amazed, they would say, "Well, I've been teaching that for the last umpteen years." I said, "Well, that's fine, and we're not here to prosecute or persecute. We're here to help. Once you know better, you do better." And so I think helping teachers, and we constantly go back to that, having teachers understand phenoms, having them understand all the phonetic pieces that go toward reading. And I think sometimes too, just as a little pushback, I think sometimes we are tempted to say, well, the kid's not reading on grade level and therefore he or she can't read. No, that's not entirely true. I mean, we took a test in our state end of course test for a number of years, probably 8 or 10 years. The ACT Aspire was never meant to judge reading levels. But we were using it for that. I think we've got a much better assessment piece now in our state, and so we're looking forward. Last year was the first year we've taken it, but I don't know. I really think that helping teachers understand that, yeah, you teach reading, and you don't know you teach reading. And it doesn't have to be confrontational. It's just, hey, if I'm teaching biology, I'm teaching words and breaking them down. I'm teaching vocabulary and teaching kids how to read words
And understand their meaning.
phonetically. I'm teaching you how to read. And but yeah, when you tell high school teachers a lot of times, hey, I need you to work on these literacy skills, they get big-eyed and they get a little nervous.
Yeah,
And
no,
it's because they don't want to fail is the main thing. It's
sure.
not that they're angry about having to do it. They just don't want to mess it up.
You want to do
And
it right.
and and that fear, once you get past the fear and show them, hey, this is not, you know, this is not something that's going to hurt you, and it's not going to hurt the child if we do it well, then they start to come around. And unfortunately for us, ours have come around and are seeing that they can help raise reading levels.
Got it. All right, you've got some technology and technological curriculum in the district. Let's talk a little bit about what are some of the challenges of having curriculum in a technology setting. Obviously, we can spend time talking about textbooks and how quickly they go out of style or other things like that. But what are some of the challenges of technology? I love to give you a chance to push on companies like mine. I'm like, hey, this isn't the easiest thing, by the way. Maybe you guys should work on some of these things. What have you found?
Yeah, finding systems that meet, um, without getting too policy wonky, that meet HIPAA compliance,
Okay,
or not HIPAA, but FERPA. I'm sorry,
FERPA in this case.
FERPA and HIPAA, and making sure that we're not that the data that we're putting there is not made available to a third party at any point. That's one of the things our state has asked us to be more conscious of is hey, let's really examine that. I think too, having programs that are much like the article I talked about earlier, that are grade level. Now I know there are a lot of things that are done adaptively. The levels will
Adjust based on.
adjust to the kid, and I get that. But you know, seeing a program that is 2 or 3 grade levels below where it's intended is frustrating. But really, and then the use, the functionality of being able to load our student data in there without having to worry about our, you know, privacy concerns. That's the big thing for as an administrator. Now, as a classroom teacher, I'm sure there are tons of others, but as a superintendent, I worry more about the data
Security
out there,
and data
security piece.
privacy.
Yeah, yeah. There are a lot of bad people in the world that want to do various things, and making sure that our networks are strong and secure, and that the data that we do have to share, that it's secure.
No, that's great. I love that. Okay, let's take just a second maybe and go down a slightly adjacent path. How do you fund stuff like this? Obviously, money's quite possibly the most controversial topic
Yeah,
in all of
always is.
education. But as you think about literacy initiatives, interventions, like how do you go about putting a funding plan? Does it take, a lot of local dollars plus federal dollars, and you kind of look at it comprehensively? Do you go straight with local and what you can on core, and then you look to federal to kind of supplement, and you look at each building or your coordinators to kind of fill in the gaps? How do you think about it from the lens of a superintendent?
All the above. It's like a giant shell game. You're just trying to find pieces and nickels in each couch cushion you can find.
Right.
Um, we we use a variety of things. Our state has a funding mechanism called ESA, Enhanced Student Achievement Dollars. It's based around your free and reduced lunch population numbers. It was originally called NSL, National School Lunch Allocation. And so we receive funds there. Of course, then we receive the whole plethora of title funds or federal funds. But we don't receive, we're 50% free and reduced. We don't receive enough of those
Can't run everything on that.
Yeah, can't run everything off of that. So we use local dollars to do those things. But I'll say this, and our board has understood and appreciates this. That's what the money's for. It's there. Yeah, we have to save. We've done some buildings and things in the last 4 or 5 years, and the district had saved some money to build those buildings. The money's there to educate kids, and so if we have to spend down that balance, that all concerning that and I grew up in that environment as an administrator. Hey, don't let your balances decline.
Right.
Don't let them decline. But when districts are carrying over more than 20% of their local revenue, that's a problem. You're not spending the money where it needs to go. And I'm not casting dispersions on those who are. I'm just saying that to me, that's a problem. We have a state law that says we can't carry over more than 20% of our total revenue. So anything over 20% gets moved into the building fund for us. Here with the changes in, for 4 years, we all became accustomed to receiving some ESSER dollars. Those were nice, but and we talked with our board and we talked with our administrative team. Hey, we've got to wean ourselves off of those because they are no more. And so we had bought curriculum stuff for the last 4 years with ESSER dollars. And it was an allowable expenditure. It could offset some costs there, and we were able to bank some savings. I get it, but now this year, we've spent in excess of $600,000 to replace curriculum stuff. It won't be that big every year because it's just so happened that everything came due all at once. So we're spacing those out next year for the future. So you just try to find those resources as you can, but understand that's why mamas and daddies pay their personal property taxes, is to fund schools. And while we want to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollar, we also know that we need to be able to put things into students' hands that are going to help them learn, and whether it be technology or other equipment, we want to spend the money where it's supposed to go.
No, that's good. No particular couch cushion, though, that you recommend people look under
No,
regularly.
not in my office. There's not, because I've shaken that couch all it can take.
Confirmed that there isn't a special cushion that you
Right,
can
right.
share insights on this.
I had a former bookkeeper that worked for me or with me, and she used to say, "It's money. It ain't magic. It's money." And so it's kind of the way you have to look at it. It's not going to just appear.
Just money. It's not magic. All right, I'm quoting that one. It's not magic. It's just money. Okay. Well, shoot, this has been awesome. Love talking about it. Love hearing what you guys are doing there. We probably could talk for a lot longer, but let's wrap up with a final question. Let's go to what does this look like in 5 years from now? Is it going to get easier? Is the science of reading push going to make things a little bit more universal? Is this pendulum going to swing? AI going to take over the world? What's the Dr. Hart lens on education 5 years from now?
Well, I am grateful of the science of reading piece. Everybody, I've talked to some legislators that thought that we were going to be angry about it. No, I'm not angry. It puts us on a good path. And like I said, it's been 10 years or more since that legislation has come through. So I really think we have to be conscious of the fact that there are some entities in the world that really don't support public education, and would like to see those dollars reinvested somewhere else or absorbed somewhere else. I think we as a state and we as a nation have to realize that if we don't educate and educate well, we're going to slip in our position in the world. Not to sound too patriotic or whatever you want to say, but I think public education is the one area that it helps to level the playing field for those who have and those who have not. And I'll say it this way: I came from a family that didn't have a lot of resources, and I was very fortunate that some teachers and coaches took interest in me and showed me that there were I had options. And I think that's what we have to do in public ed. We need to show kids, continue to show them how you got options. And you can do where you're from has no bearing on where you're going to end up and where you're going to go. I've had lots of my friends and high school cronies have said, I can't believe you've got EDD at the end of your name, or you're called Dr. anything. And yeah, I probably shouldn't be here, but it's because people took an interest in me. 5 years from now, I really think we'll have to have made that decision. Do we want, and as a state, do we want to fund public education, or do we want to provide, and our state provides vouchers now for private schools. And according to the statistics from the first year of the program, 85% of those vouchers were used by families who already had students in private schools. So we're subsidizing schools, or subsidizing kids who would go to a private school with or without that voucher. It's not, and I know when people tell you it's not about the money, it's about the money. I mean, we're going to invest, as a state, we're going to invest close to $300 million in the voucher program over the next year and a half. I know a bunch of school systems that would benefit from half of that if we would infuse half of that into the public system. So I think if we'll continue to just keep our heads down and do our job, take care of kids, do the things that we know will increase and improve literacy scores and improve literacy outcomes, we'll be okay. We can advocate for public schools. We have to understand that we're slowly becoming the minority, and that's frustrating. That is frustrating. Again, I've got 31 years in, and it's a lot different feel than it was 31 years ago. But I'm a lot different person too, so I guess it stands to reason.
No, and that's a good point, and I think it's a good call to anyone listening here that to change the future, you got to take action today, right? And we got to make sure that we're advocating on behalf of the efforts that are happening in public education. And I appreciate you saying that out loud. So you've heard it here. It's just money. It's not magic, and we have a real opportunity to continue to affect public education for the good. Thank you so much, Dr. Bobby Hart, for joining us on the podcast today.
Jeff, thank you for the invitation. I hope I've been able to say something that'll benefit you or someone else.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found today's conversation insightful, be sure to subscribe to Literacy Mindset. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube for updates, resources, and to join the conversation. Have a topic you'd like us to explore? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time.